Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. I'm glad that you came out here to represent the community. Like Allison said, US EPA has been out here since March, working with the community, making sure to protection of public health and safety is paramount. If you have any questions, feel free to ask a question, sir.
Well, why don't we just start from scratch? You said you've been here since March. Tell us what we're looking at, and tell us what's been done since March.
Okay, fair enough. So after the referral from Clinton Township in the state of Michigan, US EPA did a half-mile reconnaissance of the footprint of this site to stabilize the site. So we collected lithium-ion batteries, compressed gas cylinders, cans of ultra-refined butane, items that were involved in the fire and explosion. We did, throughout the community in a half-mile radius, we did a survey of any potentially contaminated blast debris, brought it back to the site, characterized what the hazardous waste streams were, and then once that happened, we had disposal activities that we conducted in May. Close to 4,000 compressed gas cylinders of N2O, nitrous oxide, 3 55-gallon drums of lithium-ion batteries, and 30 intact cans of ultra-refined butane were sent off-site for proper disposal. In the meantime, EPA's Office of Regional Counsel has been negotiating with the potentially responsible party to do a voluntary cleanup. Those negotiations came to a standstill. So US EPA is now conducting a fund lead out here to remove the imminent threat to public safety, health, and the environment. Next question, please. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what we have is ATF has accessed this forensic scene here. So there has been some limited forensic investigations. And so we still have intact cans of ultra-refined butane, and we still have intact compressed gas cylinders containing nitrous oxide. Now, nitrous oxide is not flammable, but it's an oxidizer. So if you have an oxidizer next to a flammable, which is ultra-refined butane, it's just like going to a hospital. They say don't smoke because oxygen. It's the same thing here. If there's an ignition source, there is always a potential threat that there could set off another fire. So we're trying to ease into this with the best, ability to be able to conduct it properly from a health and safety point of view. We have to make sure that in this building debris, when you have the roof come down and it's sandwiched, as we go in, we have to evaluate what is the threat level here. Are there still cans of ultra-refined butane? Are there other things in there that we don't know about? Traditionally, EPA will come in and do a site assessment where we try to identify all the hazards, the waste streams. On this particular site, we're going in and we're having to evaluate on the fly. So we have to take on-site worker health and safety as paramount, and also the community protection to the public during these activities. Absolutely. We have to approach it. You don't know what we're going to find in there. Next question, please. We will not be going underground, sir. Our efforts are going to be primarily to reduce the imminent threat, which would be the removal of everything above ground here, namely the compressed gas cylinders of N2O, cans of ultra-refined butane, and the lithium-ion batteries that are in the vape pens and the cartridges. That's also a hazardous waste as a disposal aspect. So when it goes back on the roads, there are DOT permits that are needed for disposal of lithium-ion batteries.
So is that your priority to find those items, and at some point will that search be exhausted and someone else will clean up what you see right here? Can you explain?
Yeah, we are actually going to go in and start segregating all the hazardous materials. And we will be doing a full removal of everything that you see in the background. We plan on removing everything. I would be concerned too, and that's why we've been out here evaluating site conditions. So during all intrusive activities, we have particulate monitoring, and we also have air monitoring. The air monitoring is for VOCs, volatile organic compounds, hydrogen sulfide, LEL. It's a basic 5-gas sensor. The particulates are for visible emissions, so they're 2.5, 1.0, 10 in total particulates. It's basically what the public would see when they see construction and demo crews and they see visible emissions. We do not want visible emissions off this site. We have site controls. We have perimeter air monitoring, perimeter particulate monitoring that tells us in real time what are the perimeter levels. So outside of just visually seeing stuff, we can apply engineering and administrative controls. We can use wet methods. We are very cognizant of how dense this area is in terms of the active commercial entities and residential subdivisions.
Now, are you out?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What's the timetable for the cleanup? I heard it was 100 days. Is that still holding?
As of right now, we're projecting 100 on-site working days. So, we have holidays. We have contractors that per contracts have to come on site, come off site. We have off-hour security. So, for concerns of what happens when EPA is not physically on site, we have worked with our Clinton Township representatives, the fire department, the police department. They're very aware, the township supervisor, very aware of EPA's presence here on site, and they have actively engaged us from day one. And they know that this site is being monitored by off-hour security, and they have a presence here. It's their community. We're here to assist them. Another question? Be patient. There's going to be heavy equipment moving in. There'll be disposal activities. We're going to be ramping up after Labor Day with more personnel on site. Be patient. It's a work in progress, and we have to proceed accordingly. So the start of this, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And my job out here is protection of on-site workers and public health. So eventually we'll get into a better rhythm, things will progress. But the first couple of weeks of a large project like this, you got to feel things out. You got to kind of, okay, are there any unknown hazards? And if they are, we identify them, we adjust in a health and safety plan. But for the time being, just to have patience, know that there'll be additional traffic here at this intersection and people coming in the morning and people leaving. Thank you for that question.
Is there any concern that most contaminants that seep underground and the groundwater?
So that's a question outside of my program, and the state of Michigan is aware of the potential for needing additional investigations, which would entail maybe putting in soil borings, groundwater monitoring wells, and then getting analytical to see if there is any subsurface contamination. EPA's emergency response branch, right now we are specifically here for the imminent threat above ground to reduce and dispose of the hazardous materials that are presently on site. Thank you. As of right now, it's a U.S. government fund lead, and we have it projected at around $2.5 million. That can be adjusted as we come across unknown hazards, and we have to adjust accordingly. If we come across any unknown hazardous waste streams, which would the disposal costs would then be inflated. So it's a working number. It's a working number, but that's what we started with. You got to start somewhere, and that's our numbers to start with. Thank you.
Are you out here because the owner of this property can't do this, or would you be out here anyway? Does that make sense?
We would be out here anyway. I'll leave it at that. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is there going to be any effort to recoup the cost from either the owner or the other entity?
So EPA's attorneys in the Office of Regional Counsel, they have cost recovery methods. It's their job to identify potentially responsible parties and to be able to do cost recovery. That's another division of EPA. I'm here specifically to do the cleanup, but thank you for that question.
Can you clarify the stage of the cleanup? You mentioned 100 days and ramping up after Labor Day. So as we stand here, I guess are you 10% in, 20% done with the job? Where are we in terms of the job?
It's hard to say because until we actually get into a little bit further in and start seeing, like more of what we're dealing with, that would give me a better idea of percentage of exactly where we're at. We just started last week. We mobilized infrastructure personnel. We want to make sure our perimeter air monitoring, particulate monitoring, everything is, our site controls are established, right, before we start doing the work. So when I say we're ramping up after Labor Day, you're going to see a heavier presence of personnel in there doing a cleanup. So we're in the initial stages. That's the best percentage I'd give you.
Are you surprised that all this stuff was here?
You know, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, you know, people are supposed to follow the rules. This individual may not have followed the rules accordingly. Obviously, there's a stockpile of materials here that the local fire department did not know about, the state of Michigan did not know about, and different federal aspects that weren't known. So that is another aspect of this site, is the criminal investigation, and that's best to go to the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office or Clinton Township to address anything of that concern. I can't speak on behalf of the responsible parties and their business methods and what they were thinking. You know, I'm just here to do a job of a cleanup, and I can't really get inside their heads. But it's a good question, and sometimes things like this happen in a community where things go under the radar, and we're here to make sure that doesn't happen again here, at least at this site. Any other questions?
Well, that being said, you're here to clean up and also help facilitate investigators' attempt to figure out how this.
Absolutely. So we will coordinate with the local, the prosecutor's office, local police. Like, we're here, we're not working on an island. We're here to work with these individuals and coordinate any type of investigative efforts with them. Thank you. Any other questions?
Here's an easy question. Can you spell your name?
Yes. First name Sean, S-E-A-N. Last name Kane, K-A-N-E.
A-A-N-E, and your title?
Federal On-Scene Coordinator. US EPA Region 5, the Emergency Response Branch. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
And that was a live press conference from the Environmental Protection Agency talking about the cleanup happening right now at the former Goose Smoke Shop and Distributor's Warehouse. Officials say it will take at least 100 working days. If you remember, that smoke shop was at the center of a deadly explosion in Clinton Township earlier this year. A 19-year-old man was killed when he was hit by flying debris.